Everyone. Shri Gurumurti ji, distinguished scholars, speakers who are participating and speaking in this seminar, distinguished participants who have come to attend the seminar and would enrich the deliberations by timely and interesting interventions, distinguished guests. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to the second edition of our annual Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam seminar. The last one was held in this very hall about a year ago. And we have titled this particular version, this edition, as Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam Revisited, Exploring India's Soft Power Assets. I am most grateful to Shri Gurumurti ji for having come from Chennai early in the morning for inaugurating the seminar. As you know, he is the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the VIF, a noted chartered accountant, an economist, a journalist, a writer. He is also a founder member of the VIF and the guiding spirit of the institution. He also serves as independent director at the board of the Reserve Bank of India. He edits the famous Tamil weekly Tughlaq also. Later in the day, we will also be welcoming Shri Vinay Sahasrabudhe, President of the ICCR, as the chief guest. As you can see from the program, we have a long list of distinguished scholars and experts who would be guiding the proceedings of this seminar. And I wish to extend my hearty welcome to all of them. Their participation in the seminar makes it useful to us, but also enhances its value. Friends, we are holding this seminar in the backdrop of major developments that are taking place internationally and also within the country. The world is undergoing unprecedented or experiencing unprecedented level of tensions. In the last few decades, the level of violence has increased several folds. And some of you who have attended Mr. Gurumurti's earlier lectures, he has been focusing on the growing incidence of violence and also given some astounding numbers, quoting Rummel and some other researchers. But this is a matter of great concern. According to credible data, there has been six-fold increase in civilian deaths between 2011 and 2018. Civil wars are raging in several parts of the Middle East. The number of people displaced as a result of these conflicts runs into millions. And they are living in miserable conditions, and the new generation that is coming up has not seen anything else but conflict. And this is certainly going to have regional and global implications. Add to that the threat of climate change, which is now becoming very acute. A large number of extreme weather events like the wild forest fires, and we saw that horrific visuals of these fires in Australia, where I believe 1 billion animals and birds have died. Powerful hurricanes, floods, droughts, these are all taking heavy toll on mankind and biodiversity. And mankind, of course, is linked with the biodiversity. Destruction of biodiversity means destruction of mankind. There is a fear that we may have crossed the point where climate change has become irreversible. And from here on, it is going to become worse. And of course, the international community is not showing any urgency to tackle the threat of climate change. And now, of course, the new disease and viruses are emerging with rapidity. This was something that was not entirely unexpected. The world has seen in the last 2 decades the outbreak of SARS, MERS, bird flu, Ebola, Nipah virus, etc. In the past, the world has also seen plagues and many other epidemics several hundred years ago in which millions have died. That the epidemics could break out in the 21st century when medical science is so advanced points to the inadequacy of the human effort, irrespective of the advances in science and technology. Inadequacy of the human effort to fight nature. The spread of this COVID-19 coronavirus to over 50 countries is a case in point. The virus has moved out of China and is spreading to several parts of Europe, Asia, and America. And now you have seen this in Europe, this visuals of football matches not being attended by anyone. And otherwise, normally the stadiums are full, or people not going to the museums, people not traveling, trying to generally being at home. So this is going to, apart from causing thousands of deaths, there is a fear that coronavirus could tip the global economy into recession. And all kind of data is now coming up to see how the shipping industry, tourism industry, global supply chains, all these have been affected. Manufacturing have been impacted. And the global economic growth, which is currently around 3.2% or so, may go down to 2.5%. I saw one estimate, even 1.5%. So that is the kind of impact this coronavirus is going to have. Again, this is not something new. Roughly exactly 100 years ago, there was this outbreak of Spanish flu, in which 55 million people are supposed to have died. And even today, researchers are trying to, through their various tools and methodologies that have adopted, trying to see how it spread and what impact did it have. So geopolitical inequalities, geopolitical equations are now changing rapidly in the world. A multipolar world is beginning to take shape, which is good. But if it is going to be chaotic, and will it be, question arises, will such a world be rule-based? What will be the new rules? And I think India has to do a lot of thinking and be at the forefront of that thinking. That's a big question as to what should be the new world be like and what can be the rules. So we must be a rule shaper, and that is a very big task for us. The backlash against globalization has begun as it has created widespread disparities. The inequality in the world is becoming sharper. Less than 1% of the world's population owns over 50% of the income, assets. This is Piketty's, I think, has written a very powerful volume. Again, it didn't talk much about India, but I think the data that is there is very powerful. Last not least, there are many problems, but I think we should also talk about the threat of terrorism and radicalization, which is increasing. Young minds are getting poisoned by extremist ideologies. Unresolved issues have the potential of radicalizing the minds further. The establishment of the caliphate by the ISIS was an example. The caliphate is gone, but radicalization still stays with us. Every crisis based on extreme political and religious ideologies has the potential to radicalize the minds further. What is becoming clear is that these problems are very complex and they do not have easy solutions, but it is obvious that cooperation at the global scale is needed to solve these problems. And that's where Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and our deliberations come. The need for ethics and morality and spirituality in international relations was never greater. What is needed is the change in the way we perceive these problems. And that is how the new solutions will arrive. In the last year's edition of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we had discussed at length how honest and genuine dialogue is required for a solution to mitigating conflicts and violence. Quoting Hans Kung, Shri Guru Murti Ji has often pointed out that peace among religions, which is essential for peace in the world, cannot happen without a dialogue amongst religions. Unfortunately, religions today are dividing rather than uniting people. This must change. The prevalent theories of international relations are rooted in the concepts like anarchy, use of force, domination, exploitation of resources, etc. Such thinking is unlikely to produce durable solutions to today's problems. An alternative narrative is required. Harmony in diversity, which is also our tagline, is a powerful alternative idea which should be perceived, which should be discussed and projected at the international level. The Hindu-Buddhist Samvad, an initiative of the Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Abe, and of course driven by Shri Gurumurthy ji, has yielded a number of positive ideas. There is a widespread feeling that Eastern religions, which emphasize brotherhood, accommodation, middle path, and tolerance, can yield better ideas for solving the present day problems. But the international relations are based on the exercise of power. Multilateralism is also becoming dysfunctional. We must put some life into this. The challenge before us is how to prioritize peace over war and conflict. The concept of tolerance inherent in Hindu, Buddhist, Jain philosophies is important and integral to our thinking. But we have to be mindful of the paradox of tolerance as well, about which Gurumurthy ji spoke last time. As he pointed out, Karl Popper, the famous philosopher, and I'm sure he would probably talk about it, he pointed out that too much tolerance of intolerance can destroy the tolerant society itself. So we have this dilemma, how to find this balance between tolerance and intolerance. Last year we had detailed discussion on the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam itself. If it's a one-sided philosophy, it is not going to yield any results. We must make it acceptable norm in the international relations. We have now a book today which we will be releasing. We have collected all the papers and this book will be released shortly. A number of useful suggestions came out of last year's deliberations. How India's soft power should be presented, projected to the outside world. One suggestion was that moving beyond the International Day of Yoga, we should get the UN to declare Vivekananda's birthday as World Harmony Day. We have written to the External Affairs Ministry and we hope that they would accept the idea and take it forward. And this is a good time because this is the 75 years of UN's we are celebrating, and I think Namrata is here from ICCR, and we hope that this can be discussed within the MEA. And we'll also speak to Sestra Buddhaji, and maybe Gurumurthy ji could also take this idea, because this will be very important if we can bring some of the concept of harmony and people start discussing it. And I'm sure it will have a very positive resonance in the international community. So we'll take these ideas that are being generated in these seminars, and we have also had some focused roundtables. We also set up a group of experts to take this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam idea further. We'll take these ideas further, and we plan to hold the annual conferences on this theme and also the sub-themes. So every year we will take up different sub-themes. The objective of the seminar is to identify the elements of Indian intellectual thinking which are suitable for the contemporary world, increase awareness about the relevance of our own culture, and establish a link between culture and India's foreign policy. And that's where ICCR also comes in. At some stage, we will also involve foreign scholars and experts who are interested in the subject, because we need to give it greater exposure, this idea. We have also set up a committee of experts for this purpose, and Indian Council of Cultural Relations is also involved in this exercise. I do hope that the discussions which are focused on Indian philosophy, arts, sciences and languages, religion, spirituality, diversity, etc., and the prospect of Hindu studies abroad, all these topics we have included in this year's discussions. We hope that some positive suggestions will emerge, and we'll try, and this will help us raise awareness and also probably a concrete plan of action. So thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you.